It's time to accelerate. Hi, I'm your host, Andy Paul. Join me as I host conversations with the leading experts in sales, marketing, sales automation, sales process, leadership, management, training, coaching, any resource that I believe to help you accelerate the growth of your sales, your business, and most importantly, you. Hello and welcome to the show today. Today my guest is Mike O'Neill, one of the leading experts on LinkedIn and social selling, how you use social media to find new prospects and close deals. And he's also co-author of the book, Rock the World with LinkedIn. Mike, how are you today?
Awesome, Andy.
That's
awesome.
fantastic. So,
A great summer.
oh, good. Good. So rather than have me read some canned pitch that you sent me about who you are and so on, take a minute, introduce yourself to the audience. What do you do and who do you do it for?
Oh, sure. I grew up in Minnesota, and I was always a kind of curious type and went to engineering school with lots of curiosity and found engineering very hard, actually. It's really hard here. And I got a PC when I was in college, so I kind of found a way out a little bit. I still did graduate and all, but I got involved in computers real early on, with floppy disks, 2 of them. No
Sure.
Remember that? 1 to start.
Oh, I remember those days, unfortunately.
Lotus 1-2-3 and WordStar, and all that kind of stuff. And that's what got me my job out of college, quite frankly, is not that I had an engineering degree, but that I'd opened up an IBM PC and I could describe what was inside.
So what was that job?
A PC technical specialist at Ramada Hotels at their corporate headquarters. And let me just share, this is one of my favorite stories. If you don't even need to be really technical to understand it, but it's a technology story. The hotels, when they're wiring up their hotels back to corporate, they have a wire essentially that goes on back. It looks like one of those airline kind of things with hubs, right? All those wires coming on in.
Right.
And picture it. 750 of those. And the year prior, they had snipped all of those cords and they'd put an IBM PC in every single hotel property with a dial-up modem and a little printer.
That was amazing technology for the time.
Amazing technology. I'm at headquarters, and there's a mainframe that has 48 Hayes 1200 baud modems attached to the mainframe, no less. What is that? So they pioneered something really amazing, and that's how my career started. I supported that network. And local area networks came along, and then, lo and behold, I ended up working for vendors. Working for selling networks for value-added resellers that sold IBM and Compaq and Hewlett-Packard and that kind of stuff.
So what was your first sales job?
My first sales job was selling local area networks that had IBM PS2 model 25s and 30s for workstations.
Those were first, early personal computers from IBM?
This was after the PC. This is when the 3.5-inch floppies came out from IBM. Right when that happened, sort of. Compaq was going from portables to desktops. There was real competition here, and it was the 3.5-inch floppy that kind of delineates this. The previous machines had 5.25s, and we sold a network where you'd buy the computers and the network and the servers and the support and all that sort of stuff from us. And I kind of worked for a few different companies doing that and stuff, but I got really good at it. And
Why?
Before long, these networks were attached to the internet.
So what made you good at it?
I'm really good with kind of schematics. And I always ask questions of what's that for and why that? Why can't we? I've always kind of done that, and I kind of learned it actually from that first job. I was really I had been testing computer products for years. People just send you all kinds of stuff and you just test it. Because we were written up in PC Week magazine and spotlighted, so just all of a sudden, everyone who made a product just shipped it all to us. Just ship it. But it isn't long before having a blanket isn't enough, and now you're trying to score a whole bed sheet. In that a PC isn't enough, you want to be involved with networks, and then the network's not enough. Now you want to be involved in a wide area network where you're linking offices together and doing more interesting things. And I got involved in that, working in telecom space. I helped launch DSL at US West.
So as a vendor to US West?
As an employee in the small business group.
Very cool. So you were selling DSL services to small businesses.
Yeah, yeah. Here's an interesting little sideline. Once again, my creativity kicks in just a little bit. Our solution at the time, if you had a small office with 5 employees, to bring DSL to your office was to bring 5 DSL lines, to put in 5 more Ethernet adapters in your computer, to set up a bridging between 2 Ethernet adapters in your computer so you could share a DSL connection.
You were there at the beginning.
That didn't work real well. We sold a few, but that didn't work well. So this is what we did. We came up instead with an idea that we'll put a router out there, a Cisco router, and it'll be on the network just like the PCs. It's just another thing on the network, but that router takes them to the internet. And now we can have all these computers behind one connection, and I get to sell a router, I get to sell maintenance, installation, a 3-year term, lock them in for 3 years. It was brilliant once again.
So describe for the audience how you prospected for new customers at that point in time.
Well, at US West, they're the incumbent carrier, so that was a slightly different situation. People have the letter of the A and in the alphabet, and all they do is call A's all year long, year after year after year.
So one person had the A's.
Yeah, philosophically, that's about how it worked.
What letter did you have?
I supported all of these sales reps as their backup sales engineer,
Got it.
as their primary sales engineer. I backed them up when something came up that wasn't voice services, it's more technical. My gosh, they're asking about connecting their offices up. Put them on the line. Let's get Mike. Then I managed a team of 4 people eventually doing the same thing. We just got too big. Too many data services being sold to small businesses. We had to expand in the department.
So when the customers were looking at buying this brand new service, this DSL service, most of them had no idea what it was really, right? How much of the selling did you do versus the salesperson?
I did all the selling. They just basically wrote up the orders, just turned it over to me. Periodically, we'd actually go out to customer sites. And actually, when I was at US West, it only happened maybe like 5 times in 2 years there. But I went to work for other telecom companies, and I was seeing customers every day, every morning, every afternoon. Customer tours, big meetings with IT folks, meetings with the other carriers. Because I was just one carrier in their network, and all of a sudden, a company like Gates Rubber Corporation or so has got to get their local exchange carriers. They got to get their wide area exchange carriers, the folks that are running their firewalls, all those folks together in a room to hammer out a project. And there I was. Pretty cool.
So how did your selling change during that transition from being a support person to really being a lead salesperson in many respects?
Well, it's one of the best jobs you could ever have, quite frankly. I enjoyed it more than any job I ever had was in this sales engineer role where the relationship getting started is actually handled by somebody else. And I'm brought in sort of as the knight in shining armor who's going to solve all of these problems that they've now agreed are the problems to be solved.
And how'd the customers react to that? Because there's a lot of stuff being written right now about you don't necessarily want to have this sort of bifurcation in your sales force, that you want people to have more expertise in the front lines of the sales process versus versus bringing in the so-called technical expert on something that.
Yeah, things are different now, Andy. They are. Things have changed. That was 10, 12 years ago. Much less on the truck roll side, a whole lot more on the remote demo, on the conference call, on the screen-to-screen stuff. Things have really changed. The AAISP is really on it with understanding how the process is one where someone opens the door, then someone else gives the demo, and then someone else asks them about the configuration and pricing, and then someone else does the close or something like that. That segmented process has kind of come on board since then.
And so you made reference to the AAISP, that's the American Association of Inside Sales Professionals, for those who hadn't heard that term before. And so you're saying that one of the big changes you're seeing is that you see that the sales process is more segmented among various groups of people with specific expertise and skills.
Yeah, Yeah, I would have been a phase 3 person instead of a phase 2 person or so. You would have had to go through a couple levels of uh, of qualifying and soul searching on, do we need to roll the truck? Does Mike need to go out there, or can we do it here? But what gets lost a little bit is that relationship building that happens from when you actually do go to their building and you get to see their office and you get to see the awards on the walls, the kind of offices that they live in, and the kind of cars that they drive, and you just get that. You can't get that through a Skype session.
So what's your recommendation when you deal with an entrepreneur, a CEO, manager in a small, medium enterprise, asking for advice on how they should structure their sales process? What's your advice?
Well, I like to deal with people at a more personal level. And I won't say first, but in the first encounter. Not the first thing of the first encounter. I just had a call yesterday with a big manager at CenturyLink, for example. And in our conversation, we really hit it off. We knew some people in common. Guy on his staff, I went to high school with, used to work at Sprint, a lot of great things. But I noticed in his profile that he coaches youth sports.
This was his LinkedIn profile.
Yeah. So while I'm talking to him, while I'm talking to him, I noticed that. And I worked that in about, a third of the way through it. It was very sincere. I mean, I'm right by ball fields here. I go by youth sports stuff all the time. I really respect that. There's something really special about a parent who takes time to teach kids, not just their own kids, but other people's kids. Imagine the tension and what it's like to be able to, it's hard enough with your own kids. You got 12 of them.
That's sometimes easier with other people's kids, yeah.
Yeah, there it is. So I got 12 easy ones and one tough one, and the one tough one I got to go home with.
Right.
That one. But it really kind of helped move our relationship a little bit forward and stuff. And he turned me on to this manager, who is a regional manager for CenturyLink as well, and she handles their training programs, kind of in the regional and even national. And I noticed in her profile that she belongs to a group that's about multiple children of the same parent, twins and triplets and stuff. There's a name for it, but the twins, triplets stuff, charity that she works with. So in my reaching out to her, I mentioned the first gentleman, and I also mentioned, for example, that I said, are you a twin or do you have one or more?
Right.
That's a different way of doing things, a little bit.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that you invested the time prior to reaching out to the first person to look at their LinkedIn profile, understand something about them that on a more personal level that you could connect with, and made a point of not just being purely about business, but also trying to build that relationship.
Yeah. I don't want to miss an opportunity to find something that would really bring us together. I mean, what if he said Pink Floyd on his profile, or she said Sheryl Crow? Wow.
Or she said Pink Floyd.
Yeah, double whammy.
Well, yeah, so it brings up an interesting point, because increasingly, again, you hear when in the training that being provided to sales development reps these days, the frontline appointment setters, if you will, oftentimes in inside sales organizations, is pretty explicit about don't waste time talking about anything personal. So what's your take on that?
Well, how much time is too much time? It's in my case here, I'm in this 25% sort of category. I like to keep about 25% of the conversation, 25% of the text, about that much being on the personal side. 10 to 25. Mm-hmm. So people kind of wonder, well, how much? Oh gosh, how does that go? Well, take it all and divide it all up. If you talk for an hour, that's how many minutes of that is maybe in that category. So there's a ballpark for you. People always do ask that question. How much? More than 0, less than 50, 20 to 25%, 10% if it's just kind of like more factual.
But if you're one of these inside sales development reps, and you're just trying to make that first contact to have a preliminary conversation to be able to set an appointment for the account exec or somebody to follow up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're going to use that information.
You've got 30 seconds. How much of that is personal?
Well, in a 30-second thing, you don't have anything that's personal in there at all. In the 60-second and 90-second version of it, you do. Yep.
And what would
Yeah.
that be?
You know, you're taking a third of the Steve Richard Vorsight principle, the 3x3 principle, trying to find one thing to mention,
Mm-hmm.
one thing worthy, but something that's really seems as much as genuine as possible. So you're looking at their profile, thinking, what of the stuff I have to hear, which thing do I think here drives them the most? It's going to drive the most emotion. It's going to like make them go like, oh, I'm so glad you asked me about that, or gosh, you really looked. Which one thing is it? And pick it. It may come from the Twitter link off their profile that you got to go look at.
Mm-hmm.
It may come from the status update that they did that you got to go click another link over here and find.
Right.
Those are kind of hidden.
Interesting. Okay, we're going to take a break here, a short break. But before we do, Mike, I'm going to give you a question to think about during the break. And we'll come back and answer it afterward. So the question is, hypothetical situation. You're brought in as a new sales manager into a company, and you really have a week to start making a difference with this team. So what are the 2 things you would do that would have in the first week that would have the biggest impact? So we'll get back to that after the break. So stay with us. After the break, Mike O'Neill's going to continue to share with us his secrets and we're going to get into more detail about how to use LinkedIn to amp up your sales, and we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Andy. Connect and Sell is used by sales reps at nearly 1,000 companies, including hundreds of technology startups and several Fortune 500 companies, to overcome the challenges of getting prospects on the phone. Companies using Connect and Sell grow their revenues faster by enabling their sales reps to have more sales conversations in 90 minutes than they could otherwise achieve in an entire week. Connect and Sell can be deployed directly to your sales reps, or you can take advantage of their outbound on-demand service, which delivers qualified prospect meetings scheduled directly on your sales reps' calendars. Visit connectandsell.com to learn more about how Connect and Sell can start filling your pipeline today.
Welcome back. My guest today is Mike O'Neill, leading LinkedIn expert. You can catch Mike online at integratedalliances.com. That's integratedalliances.com. So, Mike, let's get to the big question I asked you right before the break. You're
Sure.
new sales manager coming into a company. You've got a sales team that maybe just hasn't been hitting it, obviously, because they brought in a new manager, you. You got to make a quick impact. What are the 2 things you'd do in the first week that would have the biggest impact?
I would do a social media inventory of the firm. Let's just pick a firm that's got 200 employees.
Okay. How many salespeople?
20.
20. Okay. Perfect.
Okay. So we're going to do a social media inventory of the company. We're going to go to all the places where we exist, web properties, blogs, anywhere that there's something that's associated with the company. I'm going to grab a screenshot, shift print screen, put it in Word, go to the next one, grab a screenshot, put it in Word. Okay, so we're seeing how we look now. There's a systematic way to improve all of that in a matter of hours, to put up new graphics and new words in a matter of hours, a half a day for a person to clean all that up. That's the first step.
So fill us in just a little bit on that. How do they do that so quickly?
Well, they pretty much all have a header image that's about the same look. It's about 1,400 wide by about 400 tall.
Mm-hmm.
On Facebook, guess what? It's pretty similar. On Twitter, pretty similar. If you got a YouTube channel, pretty similar. They're 3 times as wide as tall, roughly.
Right.
So chances are they don't look the same. They don't look good. They don't look like they were brought in, out of the same block of wood, certainly. They were done at different times, and no one ever took this sort of 30,000-foot approach. So there's a start.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now we revamp those, and this is my shortcut for revamping this stuff. We got a great shortcut. We use PowerPoint, and we create our little layout of either the picture we want, or the picture we want with the text on top of it, or the text with the logo. However we want these headers to look, we're going to do it in PowerPoint, and we're going to cut it out with a screen cutting tool. You ever heard of that?
No, I mean, just like a screen grab?
Yeah. Specifically a screen grab of about 1,400 pixels wide by about 400 tall. But yes, that sort of thing. You're cutting a
Right.
piece of the screen out. And when you upload, you can adjust this a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do for graphics, we do this for words as well, because pretty much all of them have a certain amount of space, 1,000 characters or so, that we're going to be able to describe the company. Our company, ELP Corporation, sells these products to these companies and these places, and our customers get these great benefits, ABC, out of it. Something like that. Your basic piece that you're going to put on the homepage of your website, on your company page on LinkedIn, on your Facebook page, in these places. It's relatively standard. It's not hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because chances are it looks pretty bad and pretty inconsistent right now.
So is there value to having within a company having the LinkedIn profiles and the social presence fairly standardized and have sort of a corporate look and feel?
Well, I'm talking about in this scenario here, Andy. I'm talking about pages and not profiles. I'm going to get to profiles in a moment.
Okay.
But
All right.
exactly so. The answer is yes, and that's
Okay.
the next topic.
All right.
Okay. But doing something here is this is something that's marketing's role, and it's a half a day's work for marketing. What I described there. That's all. They're going to spend more time trying to figure out how to get into all the accounts with the user ID and a password than they are actually doing some of this work. It's not hard. By the way, if you can't figure out how to get in, press the little blue button that says, I can't remember my password. Don't wait long. Just 2 tries and go for it.
Right.
So now that the company's dolled up a little bit, now it's time to get the employees in line. So employees out there are going to be coming in from all different aspects of the area. I mean, you can't control how they look on LinkedIn for sure. You inherited these people. You don't even know them, right? You didn't hire them.
Right.
Not in this scenario. Okay? So we'll do an assessment. And it's a simple 10-point assessment that answers these questions. I'll give you a sample of what some of the questions are for each of the guys on my team.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have a profile at all? How's that? How about a picture? That'd be good. How about a summary? Wouldn't that be nice to have? That'd get your point. A few other things, recommendations, and so on. So you've got a little 10-point score, so you can find out who's a 2, who's a 0, who your 6s are, which are pretty good, folks. And you might find you got an 8 somewhere there. You're not going to find a 9 or a 10, most likely.
Mm-hmm.
Those are a few extra things. For example, to be a 9 or a 10, you would have to have done a status update in the last 2 weeks. Okay, I'm going to teach you how to do that. You're all going to know how to do that after this training that I'm going to talk about. But a lot of you don't know how to do that now. So you automatically, 9 is your biggest number because you didn't even know about that. Do you have more than 500 connections? Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
What this does is get you set up to kind of train your team. So do a lunch and learn training. Do a simple lunch and learn training where people sit around, you eat pizza and stuff, and you kind of go around the table and kind of discuss, your experience with LinkedIn with someone who's sort of a moderator. I am that sort of moderator, but let's just talk about more in general. Someone who's sort of a moderator who's able to, answer people's questions and keep the conversation going. This is a simple 1-hour lunch and learn. This is not the training. From that lunch and learn, you uncover what everyone's issues are. Someone takes notes, writes meeting minutes, and from there we plan, for Thursday of that first week, to deliver what is essentially an entirely demo and speaker-driven LinkedIn training.
Mm-hmm.
There's no PowerPoint. There's no presentation. You're online and you're talking to the instructor and you're doing real-time things right there because the company's already dolled up. We did that on Tuesday or Monday.
Mm-hmm.
The managers, and we know the issues everyone has because we found out about that at the lunch and learn on Tuesday and Wednesday. So on Thursday, we're highly targeted. We know exactly what to show.
Well, here's a question for you: is how, what percentage of cases are the companies actually paying? Well, I'd say most salespeople are probably on a free LinkedIn account, right? Or are they on a paid one?
Let me.
And let me ask the
It's
question.
really,
Let me
it's
ask
really
the question.
changed quite a bit, but you're right. Most are. By
Yeah.
far, most are.
Yeah, let me ask the question in two parts. So, let's say somebody is on a paid account, they're paying it on their own nickel. How much control realistically do employers have over the look and feel and content of an individual employee's LinkedIn profile? I mean, obviously, if they're paying for it, they have
They have a lot.
complete control.
They have a lot, Andy. It's called
Okay.
a social media policy, and these are
Okay.
terms and conditions for being an employee at the firm. You're not going to have a beard down to the ground. You're going to wear shoes. You're going to wear a shirt. You're going to do these things. It's a condition of employment. If the employer asks you to send something out, to email something out to a client, or they send you to send it out as a message on LinkedIn, it's no different.
And
But
are
it's
you seeing that?
handled in a social media policy. It's fairly advanced, actually. A lot of these things are known but not written down.
Right. So, is there some place online that somebody listening to this, can go and find a sample social media policy?
I don't show one. All of the ones we've done have been for clients, and I don't kind of have a genericized one. It's a good idea. Maybe I could do something like that.
Yeah, 'cause I think
The
people find that
ideal
interesting.
social media policies are 4 to 5 pages, 6 pages, something of such nature. They're not big, long documents, and they're not a quick page or two. They identify the do's and the don'ts, and what happens if one crosses a line. It's just like school that says, you know what, you'll shut the door, you'll flush the toilet, you'll do these little things out here. In this case here, if we ask you, if an order comes in over LinkedIn, I expect you to copy and paste the text from that order into Salesforce.com so we can maintain that information.
Right.
It's doing just what you said. It's telling them what to do on LinkedIn. You're going to go copy and paste from LinkedIn over into here. It's part of your job. If you're going to work here, this is how we do it.
Well, it's interesting you say social media policy. They're going to take it from LinkedIn and cut and paste it into Salesforce because, as you know, the big issue with Salesforce in many companies is not that they don't have it; it's that it's not used and updated. So,
yeah. Well, you want to hear some really wonderful things about LinkedIn over here is, when an employee leaves, if they have a free account or a basic paid account, they take all that information with them. It's like someone walking away with your corporate database in some cases. Loosely so, okay? I'm just trying to have a loose.
right.
And in the other case, when someone leaves and their Salesforce information stays with the company when they leave. There's a difference, see? Kind of take it with you. Now, with the new LinkedIn Sales Navigator program, it's even trickier. It gets really tricky.
Because
Well, with LinkedIn Sales Navigator, it depends on who's paying for the account. If the company is paying for the Navigator account for their employees, then when the employees leave, that license stays with the company. The company's paying for it. They own it. But they don't own the data. The data is deleted, destroyed, ignored, put to rest. All those leads, all those communications, all that LinkedIn inbox stuff on the Navigator side, it's not there anymore.
if the employee terminates it.
If the employee leaves the company and the company is paying for that Navigator license, the company gets to keep the Navigator license, but nobody gets to keep the data.
Very interesting.
All the reason for that copy paste into
Salesforce,
Salesforce.com that I was describing, and the reasons to have an updated social media policy, Andy. That's why.
All right. Well, that's a great point. I think that maybe we'll have you back on a future episode and talk about more in depth about what should be in the social media policy, and perhaps maybe at that time you could even share a sort of standardized example for listeners to the show, because I think they'd find that pretty interesting. As you said, it's fairly cutting edge and increasingly important.
It goes way beyond just the conversation we're having here about, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, because, heck, it's always been this way about what if someone sends you an order to your private Gmail account? We'll go Hillary Clinton here for a moment. What if something happens with your private Gmail account?
Well, it goes deeper than that. I mean, theoretically, as employees, if you're out on being paid by a company developing new contacts, all that information theoretically should stay with you, but we all know that it walks out the door with the employees.
Yes. Yes, we do. That's right. We just don't need to have software that helps that happen.
Yeah, well, now let's see if their software can help it not happen. So, good. So let me sort of wrap up here in the next few minutes with some just our random questions, rapid fire questions, one word answers, stream of consciousness, or you can elaborate if you wish.
Sure.
What's the most powerful sales tool in your arsenal?
Cell phone.
Okay. Name one tool you use for sales management that you can't live without.
Whiteboard.
So what is whiteboard?
A whiteboard.
Just a regular whiteboard, not an app.
Yep, not an app.
And how do you use it for sales management? Just list accounts or opportunities?
I scrape the board every day and put up to date what I'm doing today. And I scrape off the things that I didn't do yesterday. I kind of have my today, tomorrow, this week sort of thing. And as I write things down with a pen, it instills it in me.
Yep. All right. I agree. I know. I had to do some flowcharts recently, and I just couldn't sit down at the computer and mind map it out. I had to do it physically on a whiteboard first, and then I transferred it to.
I got a great tip for you for that. Seriously, and someone taught me this. I did not invent this myself. Post-it notes on a sliding glass door or a whiteboard somewhere. Yep.
Yeah, that's what I did.
It's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, it really helped. It really helped the thinking. So
I kept redrawing squares everywhere, and I go I can do better than this. Sharpie and some Post-it notes.
All right, that's great. So, who's your sales role model?
Rich Blakeman from Miller Hyman.
Okay, and why?
He was a real early on sales leader, selling sales training to the same kind of companies that I really respected. And he brought me on board to a Miller Hyman event where we trained their customers in Lake Tahoe and all. Mm-hmm. And his style was just so smooth and so wonderful, and it was just so effortless. There's sales is hard for some people, and it's just so easy and natural for others. And Rich was one of the more natural people I think I've ever seen. Chad Burmeister would be the other.
Chad, if he's listening, shout out to Chad. So
yeah, he's really number one current. Rich and I go back quite a ways.
All right. What's the one book that every salesperson should read?
The Little Red Book of Selling from Jeffrey Gitomer.
Your favorite music to listen to psych yourself up for a sales call?
Live concert music from Pink Floyd or bands of such nature.
What's the first sales activity that you do every day?
I clear out all of my calendars and all of my inboxes when I'm still in bed from my iPhone before my feet touch the floor.
What do you do to keep fit and healthy?
I go on walks.
Any place in particular?
I got a lake right by me. Yeah, it's great. I go 2, 3, 4 times around the lake sometimes. I don't realize it, and then my knees start to tell me it's time. I mean, I'm 55, and I just kind of forget where I am.
The one question you get asked most frequently by salespeople is,
how can I improve my LinkedIn profile?
Last question for you. What do you consider your greatest success outside of work?
Attending 1,000 concerts and remembering a third of them.
Which concerts? What's one of your favorite besides Pink Floyd?
Fleetwood Mac recently. This last year. Paul McCartney last August. 42 songs.
What's the first concert you went to?
Elvis Presley.
Whoa.
1972.
Wow. Okay.
Elvis.
I was going to say, not many people can make that claim. That's a good one.
Went with Mom and Dad, Grandma and Grandpa, and my sister. It was the days of flash cubes.
Yeah.
Instamatic cameras. Flash, flash, flash. Boom. Another cube. Normal flash.
And was Grandma grooving to Elvis?
Yeah, they're grooving. They used to go see Elvis in Las Vegas every year all together.
Very cool. All right. Well, Mike, I really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. I want to thank our guest, Mike O'Neill. Make sure you visit Mike's website at integratedalliances.com. And if you want to learn about how to use LinkedIn in your business to find, identify, develop new prospects, new orders, bring new orders into the company. Check out Mike's website and the services he offers. And remember that if you're an entrepreneur, you're in sales. And if you're in sales, you're an entrepreneur. So make it a part of your day every day to learn something new to help you amp up your business. And until next time, this is Andy Paul. Good selling, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the show. If you like what you heard and want to make sure you don't miss any upcoming episodes, please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Stitcher.com. For more information about today's guest, visit my website at andypaul.com.